Hi everyone. Thank you for joining me. If just give me a minute, I'm going to get Amanda up and then we'll get down to business. But I just couldn't believe when I came across this story. I have to get it out there and share. So bear with me. I'll be back in 2 ticks. So she shouldn't be long. Oh, thanks for coming in under a blood red sky and thanks for sharing. Amanda, hiya. You're live on the
Hi.
internet. Thanks for joining me.
Mighty, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. How are you doing?
Grand. At least I've sorted this bit out. So yeah.
That's it. Once we've overcome the tech issues, we're ready and raring to go.
Yeah.
So I came across your story on Facebook, and I was just absolutely dismayed. What an incredible story you've got to tell.
Yeah.
So
That's one word
we'll go
first.
right back to the beginning and where
Yeah.
it began.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you moved over from Ireland.
Yeah, because unfortunately Ireland hit a
And
recession.
was it Southport?
So we moved to Southport. So my parents lived in Southport. So I was actually coming over to do a degree. I was hoping to do nursing or paramedic, and I was going to take care of my elderly parents. They were going to move in with us. So we'd moved to this street. We were 100 yards from my parents' house, and just before, no, it was just a little bit, a day or two after Christmas Day. There's a wee Scouse kid outside at the neighbours freaking out because he wants to take his kid. He's trying to kidnap this kid. And we've gone outside and we've stopped him from taking the kid. And I think what happened was I actually frightened the life out of him. So he was telling me to fuck off. And I said, I did advise him that he should take his own advice and leave. It would have been easier. So that was fine. The police were called to that incident, and we never thought anything more of it. And we moved our stuff into this new house. And yes, I do have in my possession bones. I do have bones in my possession. Unfortunately, it's 3 vertebrae of a pilot whale that was 25 foot that I'd had for years. And I think the kid that we were speaking to was an informant for Merseyside police. And I think he was trying to get out of something and gave this information. But instead of the police coming to speak to us like normal people, they decided that they'd invade. So they came on the 2nd of January, and it was a policewoman. And her name was, can I say her name?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, lovely, fantastic. So Mandy Abram,
free platform.
Yeah, was a complete tit who came and then decided to ask us like weird questions about, did I make any alterations to this house? And I'm quite a thick Irish paddy, so I don't know if your audience knows what a thick Irish paddy is, but it's usually reserved for the likes of like Conor McGregor, that kind of person. So I looked at her and I was like, Jesus, do you think I look like a carpenter? So she thought I'd made like some sort of alterations in this house. And we were just like, let's get her out. She said she was a cold case officer. And I know from just reading and things that cold cases usually indicate murder. So murder doesn't have a time limit. So that was strange, but we just carried on. And unfortunately, I had fallen in the snow in December of 2010, there was an unprecedented snowfall, and I had fallen, but I actually didn't realise I'd injured myself badly. And I found out subsequently I'd actually dislocated my neck, which technically I've broken my neck. So
Wow.
we got more people coming into the house, but I'm quite a miserable person on a good day. So if you could imagine what I'd be like in absolute agony. So I'm laying on a couch and I'm watching this horror unfold in front of my eyes. And there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. I cannot change it. So I've let it. I thought the best course of action would be to let it ride it out. And once, because obviously this is the police, they're going to come back, like they're going to speak about it. There was a few favorite undercover cops that I had. The SSE man was my favorite. He came in with a colleague, and God love the colleague. He walked into the house like he was expecting, blood dripping down the walls. So this is the look that this kid was having. And the other guy was Indian, and he'd said to me, "Oh, I have a tattoo on my arm. It's India, because that's my daughter's name. What tattoos have you got? Have you any marks on your body?" And I thought, well, I have two visible tattoos. So I thought, well, I'm going to tell this stranger I have two tattoos. And he turns around and he says, "But what about the tattoo on your right foot?" And I thought, wow, majestic, because you can see through socks, babe. Fair play. My other favorite one was the truancy officer. So he came in and he said he was allergic to dogs, and it was just absolute nonsense. And I kept asking them questions, and I thought, one of them must be smart enough to figure out that I know that they're undercover. Like, they'd have to. The reason why I knew they were undercover, because anytime I ever open a door to somebody that's a stranger, they don't look at me like, "Oh wow, you look real sweet." In actual fact, they look at me like, "Oh Christ, you look scary." But all these people were smiling at me, and I thought, Christ above, you're real dumb people. But it just carried on and carried on, and I went to Ireland because we'd moved in December, which obviously is unusual, but I wasn't really announcing it to like a public announcement. I was just moving countries. And I had decided that I was going to settle up all my business in Ireland in the mid-January. So, to sort out, just bank details and stuff like that. But these people came with me. These people came with me, and it was hilarious because I'm on the ferry with my elderly father. And I don't know if anybody's gone to Ireland in January. Nobody goes there. Nobody goes there in January. So I'm in an empty bar with my elderly father in a corner of the ferry. And there's like these 7 men, shoulder to shoulder. Like, they couldn't have got any closer to each other. Just sat around us, staring at us. And not one person spoke. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna leave to go outside. They followed me. I thought, oh mighty, they'll have to follow me in the car, but I can drive in Ireland, and it's quite windy roads. So I thought, oh, I'll fly about the place until I think it was about 4 days into Ireland and into the trip to Ireland, and I'd hit a low wall, and I got out to check my car because I thought I'd ripped the bumper off. And under the driver arch wheel, there was a tracker. But in my mind, I was trying to keep calm. And I was just like, oh, that's just probably something that I've never seen before. It's probably nothing. But it was a tracker. And in my head, I was thinking, oh, I'll drive into the guard station and I'll tell the guards that there's a tracker on my car. But the problem with doing that was my children and my husband were still in Southport at the time. And I thought, if I do that, I'm going to miss the ferry, and these people are going to freak out, and they're beside my children. So I changed my mind, and I didn't go to the guards. By the time I got to Dublin Ferry, I thought, no, I'm closer to England than I am when I'm at home in the west of Ireland. So I actually ran a red light to get the guards to stop me, which they did. But unfortunately, she let me go. I was so upset because I thought, oh, please just stop me and get me out of the car. At least I can tell you that I think there's this tracker. So we get back to England anyway, and it just becomes absolutely insane. They've followed me all over the place. They even followed me into the MRI scanner, a waiting room, which was absolutely hilarious. I'm sitting in a gown waiting for an MRI scan, and I have two people fully dressed sat opposite me in the waiting room to go into the scanner. And I was like, Jesus Christ, these people are so dumb. They're just, I didn't actually know what they were doing at that point. And I was trying to be rational, and I was trying to think, oh, it can't be me. Sure, they've just made a mistake. It's fine. But every sign, action, words, everything they were doing was coming back to me. And when we got the DWP letter for a fourth child's birth cert, I thought, oh, sweet Jesus Christ, they think it's me. They think I've killed my own child, which, if they'd actually investigated me properly, would have figured out from my medical records, because I have a heart condition, which is called thick sinus bradycardia. The cardiologist in Galway told me when I'd had my third child that he recommended that I would never have any more children because I wouldn't be able to give birth to them because it would kill me. So I'd actually put a contraceptive coil in, so I didn't get pregnant. So it's all in my medical records. It would have been easily accessed by them because if they'd gone through the guards, they would have been able to access that. But they didn't go through the guards. They didn't go through the Garda in Ireland. So nobody knew that I had serving British police officers in the west coast of Ireland, having a lovely trip around the county with them interviewing neighbours of mine. And God love them. If they'd gone, and I think you said that you may have some Irish audiences, Irish members on. Irish people talk funny, and sometimes you need a translator. And Mayo slang, when the neighbour was trying to tell him that I was a thick bitch, he wasn't indicating that it was my level of intelligence. He wasn't telling them I was stupid. What he was telling them was, she's a thick bitch, she'll come at you. That's what she was trying to tell. But they took that as, I have an IQ of a dead rat, which I don't mind. So that was fine. So they've done everything they possibly can. So when they'd come on the 28th, well, before that, we'd got a phone call from the landlord to tell me that a drainage company was coming to dig up the back garden. And I thought, mighty, this is the police. I'll be able to go outside and I'll tell them, Christ, you lads, you've made an awful mistake. But don't panic, because you're lucky. I'm really reasonable, and I understand that an allegation of murder is so much. So, in all honesty, it's bad, but at least it's contained. We're perfectly fine. Everything is grand. So I've gone outside, and there's these. They've brought a van, and it says Mr. Sparks Drainage Company, but there's no numbers on the van. And one of them leaves the door opened of the van, and they had bloody everything was Merseyside Police signs, jackets.
Yeah.
Like, they literally could not have made it any more obvious. They brought an undertaker and a hearse, and they brought 2 cadaver dogs, and obviously the handler, and 2 members of the Home Office. But my husband's trying to get the kids to work or to school. So us being thick Irish people, I didn't want to disturb them. So the dog handler left his car open. So we went into his car and undid the handbrake. so we could move the car. Like, we just moved their car. Well, Jesus, they came round from the back of the house freaking out. And I thought, yeah, because somebody's at the front watching. So they were like, why are you taking our car? I was like, no, we're moving it so you can get on with their job, so you can leave quicker. I went out to talk to the big cop, and I said to him, if you need the toilet or a drink, please come on inside. Just walk on into the back door. And he turned around and he said, no, we're not allowed. And I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, it's us. It is us. So I said, Grant, we'll let you on with their job. I'll close the door and you carry on. And here they were with their, the big cotton buds at the drain. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I think I've done it here. Like, you think, what, have I chopped up somebody in this house? And I can barely move and I can barely speak. So it was insanity on insanity. So once they'd figured out the mistake, God love her, Alison O'Donnell, the SIO, who failed to come near me, swans to my house into the back garden from her soft top, lovely car, and swans back out and decides not to speak to us. So unfortunately, everybody's come undercover. I don't even know how to get to Asda. I actually don't even know how to get a bus. So when I say I'm very new to the country, I mean I'm very new to the country. So this cop has handed me, once they figured out there's no body, and obviously they've made a shocking mistake, he knocks on the door. He hands me 2 packets of crisps and 3 tubs of pork pies. And as I said to you earlier, I knew their budget was massive because the 2 packets of crisps are share packs. And I have 3 kids, so no multi-pack there, no multi-pack found, so like they must be wasting money left, right and centre. And he hands me this stuff and I'm like, what the, like, are you insane? And he was like, oh, yeah, Merseyside police won't bother you again, Mrs. Kennedy. And I thought, no, babe, this is the time to bother me because I'm going to go fucking apeshit. So, and I've waited 4 months to go apeshit, and yeah, I'm going to rip somebody a new arsehole. So nobody came back. Nobody came back at all. And at the same time, I'm bent double. So I haven't even been able to, it took me 20 minutes to leave the couch to go to the bathroom. I'm literally broken. That's why everybody looked frightened in my house, because even my children, they looked frightened. They were quiet because we come from the side of a mountain. So, and this new house had a big street lamp outside and they couldn't sleep because it was like daylight to them. I also noticed that when the cops had arrived, what they'd done was where the location of the house was. It's in the middle of a street, and there's nothing to the front of the street, only a yard, which I think was Jewson's at the time, and the back of the house
you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me still? So the back of this house.
Yeah, it just went a little bit funny then.
Yeah, so the back of this house is flanked by 3 gardens. So I knew that the police had taken over the house behind us because there was a bit of a wind going on, and the one of the panels from this fence had blown down. So I'd made my husband go back out and put it upside down backwards, because I knew from previous times that English people do love their fences. So if I've messed your fence, you're going to come around. So I was hoping that I was wrong, that it wasn't the police. No, they left it. So I was like, oh Jesus. But when we'd step outside the back step out of our house, their floodlit, their light for their outside would flood our back door like it was Anfield. So it was like, the whole entire garden was just floodlit. So I knew, I was like, oh my God, maybe they're just thick of shit. maybe they're just racist. I was actually hoping they were racist, because it would have been easier to deal with. So anyway, they've dug up the back garden. They've decided to leave. I've had to stand up, which I know doesn't sound much, but when you're crippled and you can't walk, standing is really, really difficult. And it took me 18 days we waited 18 days for them to come back, even though the neighbours had thought we were like IRA terrorists at that point. And we didn't even meet our neighbours. And there was a lovely woman just at the end of the street who did a tag team with her husband, because she knew that we were in such danger from the police and from people. They took turns to make sure that we weren't going to be killed in our house, because we couldn't have got out of that house even if anybody had come to that house. It was just impossible. So it took me about 18 days to leave. And in that time, I rang the landlord, and you could imagine what I'd said to the landlord. And I said, "You're not getting your rent." And what I actually went out and bought was a tent, a PlayStation 4, a little mobile, those DVD players for the car, and
Oh yeah, travel one.
Yeah, skateboard, because I thought my children were going to be murdered. So I was like, I'm going to get you the things that you want. And if you are murdered, at least you got this stuff. It'll be grand. And off we went. We went to a place called Westward Ho. And I swear to God, I have never had the amount of terror. I cannot even describe figuring out that you have this problem. And you're like, oh shit, we've done nothing wrong. They've made a mistake. They're panicking now, because if anybody finds out, obviously they look like a bunch of tits. Because at the same time this was happening to us, Avon and Somerset police were doing the same thing to Christopher Jeffries about the Joanna Yates murder. So obviously, Jesus, could you imagine the whole nation of England then would be finding out that their police forces that they paid their council tax for, this is what they're doing, making up murders. You're like, what? Don't be insane. So we'd literally lost our minds in Westward Ho, and unfortunately, the despair was so much. That I'm sitting in a caravan thinking, how am I going to kill us all? Because we're terrified. They've even, because I didn't know what to do when they'd left. I did what I would do in Ireland, which is you go to your teacher, your kids' teachers, or you go to the doctors, or you go to somebody in authority and you say, look, I'm having this problem. Can you help me? So I went to the school like a fool and told them that the cops have dug up this garden, and we literally don't know what's going on. So, can you help us? But instead what they did was they didn't believe my account, rang the police themselves, and the police decided to deny all knowledge of me and Hawthorne Grove and everything. They actually said, we've never heard this woman in our lives. So the school rings social services, and on the 9th of May, so they've left on the 28th of May, or they've left on the 28th of April. The social services ring me on the 9th of May, and what this woman actually did was she rang my parents' house, and my dad is elderly. And he comes down, and Jesus, God love him, he says, what have you done? What have you done? And I thought, I forgave that straight away, because I thought, Jesus, if my own family thinks I've done something, like they've convinced us that I've actually done something, like we're doomed. We're doomed here. So the social services rang me, and she said, we're coming to take the kids because we've done a court and we've issued this thing called a Section 47. And it turns out that a Section 47 is when your children are in mortal danger of you. and they're going to come and take them because the two teachers in my children's school had decided to take my middle child into a locked room and strip him naked so they could inspect his body, because they maintained that we'd whipped them. Because in their medical degree, they've checked stretch marks, but obviously none of them have medical degrees. So they've seen stretch marks. They've assumed are whip marks. So it just went absolute tits up. And the social worker, when I said, oh, well, you need to ring Merseyside police. You need to tell them what you're doing and who you're doing it to. So she rings me back like 10 minutes later, like somebody has forgotten to buy me milk. And she's like, oh, Jesus, sorry, Mrs. Kennedy, sorry about that. And I'm like, you've just threatened to take my children and you're telling me sorry. She says, oh, there's a social worker.
That, what they did to your child is traumatizing.
Yeah, because
based on nothing, and stripping a child to do that.
Yeah, because when he came home, you see, this is what hurt the most, was because when he came back to the house, he told me, and my usual way of doing things is that if you've looked sideways at my child, I'm going to be beside you. I'm going to be asking you the questions. So, and I'm 5'10", and I'm from the side of a fucking mountain. So, you know, when somebody asked me what did I do for a hobby, I was like, oh, I'm real handy with an axe. So, you know, like I'm not like a dainty little woman. And this poor child comes back, and I had to say to him, he wanted me to go to the school. I would have kicked the doors off the bloody walls to come find these teachers. And I had to say to him, we're in the fight of our lives here. We're in the fight of our lives here. But the problem is, we're already dead. We're already dead. Like, there's fuck all I can do. So that destroyed me. So we were fucking on the run like fools, you know. So I had to split the kids up because it was in such a state. I thought, they can't be with me, because if all three of them are with me, the panic might make me do something stupid. Like, I'd already said to my
pressure as a mother.
Yeah. So I'm on the motorway. Yeah, so I've never driven on the motorway. And I'm driving on the motorway, losing my fucking mind, in absolute agony. We don't have the sat nav. I don't know where we're going. Don't know what we're doing. So I've had to split the kids up, because I said, if I see a cop car, if they followed me for 3 miles, I'm going to go for the central reservation. Like, I'm going to hit that as hard as I can, because at that point I thought, the kids are doomed, like, without me. So I couldn't bear the thought of somebody taking them from a mistake. So that was fine. So we'd got as far as Westward Ho, and I said, we like, obviously we didn't kill ourselves. I did try, but unfortunately it'd be, my logic was like, I thought, oh, how am I going to do this without pain? Because I thought they're coming to get us. So at least by my hand, I'd be doing it because I loved them, and I wouldn't be trying to hurt them. But by somebody else's hand, they would hurt them. So I couldn't bear the thought.
Oh.
So obviously we did.
They've got you in there. Yeah, it's obviously such an unnatural instinct for a mother, but I can completely understand where you're coming from with that.
So we leave Westward Ho.
Absolutely horrific.
Yeah, and we've become homeless. So I've bought a tent. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I don't really like tents, and I found out I am claustrophobic when I was in the MRI scanner. So
do you know what's strange? I've done the same. I bundled us in the car and I drove with no destination. I had a tent in the back. The most random things. you know,
Yeah,
just what I could
massive.
shove in. And we went to a campsite. Yeah, it's so,
Yeah,
so bizarre. But it is
yeah,
that
because
feeling of we need to leave. We need to leave
we need
right
to leave.
now,
Oh,
and our
yeah,
lives depend on
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, and the awful thing was, I'd made them, because we'd moved countries, I made them whittle their precious things down so we could move to Southport. And then I'm having to get rid of everything that they love, because obviously we can't carry them. So I had to get rid of all their precious things. So
Oh,
so we're
bless
in this
you.
study caravan, and we've gone to um, my husband's parents, but because sure, I'm losing my mind and he's losing his mind. Everybody else is going, nice and calm, but we're like literally madness. And we get to their house, and I'm saying to Stephen, "Oh my God, I need to go back." I think what's happened is I may have overreacted. This is the police at the end of the day. I may have just overreacted. I'll go back and speak to them like a normal person. So that was in mid-June. Mid-June, I went back, and I got a solicitor. Mike Lennon, God love him, from Rex Macon. And I'd gone into him and I'd said to him, like, this has happened. And he turns around and he says, "Oh, sure, Irish people never have problems with the police. The only people that we've ever heard of having a problem is the Guildford Four." And I'm like, rein this shit back in. That's like really serious. Just rein it in. This is just a mistake. We're all still alive. Calm the fuck down. Just tell them that. It's fine. And he sends them a letter. He doesn't tell me he sends them a letter. I find out that they've got the letter. So I'm sat in my mother's house, my parents are elderly. My sister has a very young child, and I have 3 kids with me. I'm back. I went back to Southport to sort it. My poor husband, he was so terrified. He was literally petrified. He couldn't move, he couldn't speak, he couldn't do anything. So I've gone back, and they've the neighbours come into the house and they're freaking out, and they're like, "Oh my God, Manda, there's police outside." So I, like a normal person, I've waited three hours. Well, actually, I waited 3.5 hours before I rang Mike Lennon. I ring Mike Lennon and I say, "Oh, Mike, I know the police have got the letter." And he says, "How do you know?" I said, "Well, the 2 lads outside in fucking full regalia is kind of giving it away." He then freaks the fuck out and goes, oh my God, are they in plain clothes or are they in full uniform?" And I said, "No, babe, they're in full uniform." And this big sigh of relief, saying, "Oh, thank God, you're safe enough then." And I'm fucking thinking, why am I not safe? I'm a bloody housewife from Mayo. Why am I not safe from the fucking police? I haven't done anything. So it, unfortunately, that moment gave me real clear clarity, and I thought, oh Jesus. Unfortunately, in my naivety of thinking that the police are going to be fine, I've actually brought my own children into like a lion's den. And now I figured out that, oh shit, they're in danger with me and they're in danger without me. So I had to make up a plan. And my eldest child was 14 at the time, and God love him. I said to him, I think they're going to come for us, but I think they're coming for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit outside, and God love him, he's partially deaf. And that's why the police were confused about how quiet my house was, is because my eldest child is partially deaf, and the little bit of hearing he does have is highly sensitive to noise. So it pains him. So that's why our house was quiet, because we were all respectful of the child's needs. And I've told this child, I'm going to sit outside with a load of saucepans They won't expect it. So if some dude's going to come, they're going to come between the hours of 12 and 6. They're going to come at night, and I'm going to be waiting for them. They're not going to be expecting a lunatic in the dark. So I've made my eldest son practice how to get out of a second-story window with his 2 brothers, and I've given him 500 quid in his bag, and I've given him a phone with 2 numbers from my a friend to ring if need of emergency. So the 2 people that he would ring would have obviously come, and I told them to hide. And whatever you do, don't look around the corner. Don't look around the corner. Like I even said to him, who are you more frightened of, me or the police? And he said, me. And I said, good, keep it that way, because I'm not going to hurt you. So, but don't look around that fucking corner. So I stayed like that for 6 days, thinking, okay, what they're doing is they're just trying to frighten me. They're just trying to frighten me. It's fine. And after the 6th night, I put them in the car. I put all 3 of them in the car, and I had the money to go for the ferry, to get back to Ireland. But unfortunately, my husband was over the other side of the country, and I couldn't leave him. So I went back to get him, even though I knew that we'd be fucked and we'd be stuck here. But I had to go back and get him. So, because he's obviously my children's father. He's a good man. So, So we've gone back, and I've brought the kids back, and we are literally demented. And I get a phone call about a week later from a cop who'd gone to my elderly parents' house, because what I found out then is that they referred themselves to the IPCC. And I'm not too sure, but I'm nearly sure he said West Yorkshire Police or something like that. I wasn't really taking much heed. And he wanted to know what had happened. But at that stage, I thought, Jesus, I know too much information. That's what the problem is. I know too much. So I never said, I know this, because I thought they were going to kill us. And so he said,
that's true. Sometimes they'll disguise it as, oh, we'll take a complaint, and it's not. It's a way of fishing. How much does she know? What she got? Yeah. What evidence do we need to get rid of?
And they already thought I was wise. So I was like, oh well, somebody came, they dug up the back garden, so that was fine. So, but I made the solicitor send them another letter. And he gets this response, this 6-sentence response, that said, from the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, John Murphy, God love him. He says, oh yeah, previous tenant saw a man carrying a bag into her then home, which contained a body. And then this man buried the body in the back garden. And, sure, they weren't trying to make me distressed, God love them. The problem with that is I found the previous tenant. I questioned them myself. She didn't leave that house till the November. We moved in at the end of December. So to me, what it sounds like is that the police left the body in the garden like they'd forgotten dry cleaning, So
that's it. I've seen this letter, and I've read it as well, and even reading it was like, hang on a minute, this doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, because we're talking about months between that tenant.
Yeah,
and them showing up.
The house was empty. The house was empty. It's just that letter is the only explanation they could come up with, other than saying, yeah, that woman there, yeah, she looks a bit she looks a bit scary. We thought she'd murdered somebody. Like, it was fucking demented. And
then with the communication from DWP, they were specifically asking you about the details of your 4th child that simply doesn't exist.
It never existed. I would have loved to have had a 4th child. We would have loved to have had one. But even with my heart condition, I would have still had to go. But With this, I was like, oh my God. I even asked social services to come take the kids, because I thought, I'm going to die. They're going to die beside me. So take them. I love them that much. Take them away from me, because
Oh, bless you.
they're lovely boys. Like, they're really lovely boys. And obviously, social services decided no, that wasn't fun. They weren't going to take them. So I made Stephen go to Graham Stewart, because I thought, well, I actually need proof to say it wasn't me or Stephen that had killed somebody. So Stephen walks into Graham Stewart's office, and fair play to Graham now. He gives me I meet him in the a beer garden about 4 or 5 weeks later, and he said, "Oh, I got a reply." He said, "Oh, do you know what? I think I'll just give them to you." And I said, "Grand." So what I actually have is an email between Graham Stewart and Alison O'Donnell, the SIO, who states to him, "There's no point in helping her. She's a delusional fantasist who says that she has police protection." But yeah, I have a letter from the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police saying I am part of police protection. So they can't even make up their fucking mind. Like, what is it? Which one is it? So he also got a reply from Sefton's Children's Services, from the head dude called what's his name, Pettigrew, and he writes in his email saying, "Oh yeah, it was such a funny story that she told the school, and Mrs. Kennedy was so distressed, but you know what? We found there was no way to help her, so we closed the investigation." Those people have gone on to say that they've never met me. They've never met me. And unfortunately, they said that Joan Smith, the social worker for Sefton's Children's Services, never came to my house. But if I'm crippled and I haven't left my house for 4 months, how in God's name do I have that woman's name written in her own handwriting on a piece of paper in my possession if the bloody numpty hadn't been near me? So they've just, everything that they've done, I've gone, okay, Mighty, explain that bit. Just, explain that bit. Because if I have a murderer after you, maybe tell me what he looks like. That might be handy, because I'm obviously a foreigner in the country and I don't know anybody. So every man now has become my potential murderer. And it's like when people say to me, "Oh, well, I don't believe that you got accused of child murder." Well, thank Christ you don't believe that. Thank Christ. But you will have to believe what the policemen said. And they said there's a murderer after me. So which one is it? Because either way, either scenario, I'm a potential murder victim in both conclusions, which, in all honesty, I have a lot of other things to be at, so it's insanity on insanity. And then so I
That's
decided,
the thing, yeah. On the one hand, they're saying they were trying to protect you, and yet no methods were put in place in your home, no alarms, no briefing of yourself. And you quoted something to me before about, they need to make you aware that your life's at risk. None of that took place.
It's called an Osmond warning.
Osmond warning. Yeah, that was it.
So it's a threat to life, and it's usually given to you by a police officer. And what he does is, or she, they state what's on the Osmond paper or the letter, and then they just hand it to you. That's what they do. But nobody ever decided to come. But I did leave some of their evidence in the house, because I thought, oh, I don't want to be carrying this stuff with me. So I left the yellow handle carving knife that they left, and I left the 2 smoke alarms that they got the fire brigade to install 4 foot from each other. So that was quite fun. But Mike Lennon did make me laugh. Mike Lennon did make me laugh when he said, "Oh, was there a listening bug in this smoke alarm?" And I was like, see, this is where the problem is. These people are thinking I'm like fucking Jason Bourne. And I'm trying to explain to them, no, I'm a fat Irish woman from the side of a mountain. and I couldn't tell you what a smoke alarm looks like on a good day. So I couldn't tell you what a smoke alarm looks like with a bug. So this was the problem.
That's it. You don't
I'm
come
like,
trained to deal with things
I
like this.
know.
It's
I
amazing.
can, yeah, I can barely go to Asda. I can't even do the fucking self checkout for Christ's sakes. So like, I'm hardly, you know, amazing criminal. You know, I'm 5'10". Sure, I stick out like a sore thumb. I constantly get receipts from shops because I look dodgy. I'm like, no, give me the receipt. They're like, oh, you don't need it. I'm like, yeah, I do because I look dodgy. I know I do. So yeah, so they've just done everything. But I did complain to the IPCC about the 10th of November, which was that letter. And unfortunately, God love the IPCC. Apparently, I confused them with my name. They mislaid it. They couldn't find it. It was put away somewhere. The woman, Catherine Thomas from the PSD of Merseyside Police, she only came to their department new, but Jesus, that woman was off more than she was working. Every time I rang, she was never there. It was fantastic. I sent you the recordings. If anybody was bored and feeling a bit shit, listen to them because they'll make you laugh.
I'll upload them and then put the link in to this so people can follow up. And I'll also upload, with your permission, the solicitors' letters for people to have a good look at.
Yeah, I have a lovely letter as well when they told me that they put betterment back into the garden. I was like, are you gardeners now? What the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, they've done everything. And then IPCC said I was out of time, which was amazing. Unfortunately, they did it a day early. So, but all of it made me laugh because one of them, when they came as Mr. Sparks, my husband's an archaeologist and our whole life surrounds archaeology, you know. And Mr. Sparks, the only reference I could find to Mr. Sparks is he's actually one of the first commandos from the SAS. And his famous thing was he managed to stay behind enemy lines for 6 months. So these numpties must have been like, oh yeah, we're so great. Because when I'd quite, you know, I was hoping on the 28th of April that I could have actually said to them, I'm nobody and I've seen you undercover. So if you go off to organize crime or do anything with other criminals, don't send these people because they're shit at undercover. They will die. They will fucking die in 2 seconds. So I'm trying to help them. Like, you know, I'm like, oh no,
That's it.
no.
We have channel hosts that do live streams at protests and things like that, and you can tell who's undercover police. Even they're desperately trying not to look like undercover police, and that's what gives them away. So to have them come in and, you know, be asking you such odd, irrelevant questions and things like that, yeah.
Well, sure, I had an energy. The energy dude made me laugh because what I was doing was I was asking them a base question because it's part of my job. I've worked in secure units, so my job is to check that I'll ask you a base question. It'll give me, you know, the way you speak, how you sound, and telling me the truth. And then I'll ask you a question that you don't know, and if you don't know, you'll. It's strange. I have a strange way of doing things. But the poor energy guy, I said to him, how long you worked in energy? He was like 25 years. And I said, oh, mighty. Well, what's the difference between a single glazed pane of glass to a double glazed pane of glass? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, for fuck's sake, if you're going to come undercover, at least do some bloody research. You got
that's it.
You know, it was shocking. They were shockingly bad. And if these are the people that are bridging the gap between the innocent and the vulnerable and the citizens of Liverpool, well, I'd say go out and buy a fucking umbrella because that's as much use to you as this lot. And this is a major incident team. It's not like some dude down the road. It's a major incident team. Not fucking one of them came back and said, oh Christ, sorry about that. sorry about that. You know, you're like, Jesus
That's
Christ,
it.
I have fucking
Do
3
you
kids
mind,
here.
Amanda, if I just do a quick rundown because people have missed the beginning bit
Oh yeah,
of what
sorry.
your story is? Is that all right, Tita?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
basically,
absolutely.
correct me if I'm wrong on anything. Don't worry about pleasantries. Just say nope. That's all right.
Well, as you can
So
tell,
Amanda's.
I's delightful company. So you know, don't worry. I'll
Oh,
tell
bless
you.
you. So Amanda's moved over from Ireland to be nearer to her parents, basically. And as soon as she's moved into this house, they've started having undercover police coming round. Now,
Yeah,
Amanda's clued up, sharp as a tack. She knew what they were up to. So initially, they believed that she had murdered her own child and buried them in, excuse me, buried them in the garden. But this child doesn't exist. She's got 3 children, and they were making the accusation that she had 4 and that she'd actually murdered the 4th and buried it.
yeah,
So there was things like the DWP contacting her, demanding birth certificates for this child that simply didn't exist. So then
yeah,
Amanda's returned back to Ireland to go and, put her affairs in order and things like that. And she's noticed that she's been followed. So these are all undercover police. Obviously, they
yeah,
don't want their identities out there and things like that. So when they've eventually realised that they've messed up massively,
yeah,
they've acted on, intelligence that's, untrustworthy, basically.
yeah,
Um, then Amanda's life has been in danger, basically, rather than admit that they've not, they've got it wrong and apologise and things like that. They've tried to cover it up. So
yeah,
Amanda's ended up taking, initially social services got involved due to
yeah.
malicious
Had them for years.
allegations. And then Amanda's basically taken a family on the run to try and protect
Yeah,
herself and her children and her husband. And then going down the right routes, got solicitors and things like that. The police
yeah,
have then turned around and claimed, oh, no, we had information. Somebody else buried a body in the garden and we were
yeah.
trying to protect Amanda and her family, which,
No,
like I said,
no, just me,
was that all
just
right?
me. Yeah, no, the thing was, the protection that they were given was just solely for me. That's what the problem was. So it wasn't for the kids. It wasn't for Stephen. It wasn't for the 2 old dogs that I had. It was just solely for me. So unless
Yeah.
unless that the murderer took a liking to me, which is fairly remote, um, it's like why would you just protect me when I had nothing to do with it? So and we would have, if they had come on the 2nd of January and said that this has happened, I'd be like, babe, no bother. Sure, look, we've just moved in. All I have to do is walk back out the fucking door. It's grand. Here's the keys. Check it all out. Who the fuck wants to live with a murdered victim in their garden? You know, I was thinking about putting daffodils in, but fucking what? Why would I live with that? So like they've never made any sense. And the previous tenant I found, and then I went back 15 years past that. She'd lived there for 7, and I went past 7 over 15 years, and each member of that household was a man. So there was nobody in. And the fact of how the hell was he able to get into the house, get into a back garden, dig a feckin' hole that was big enough for a body, fill it back up, and her not to get into the house? She must have crawled on her fingernails to get in. And then what would she have done? Asked the kids, oh, what would you like for tea? Fish fingers. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to ring the police to tell them about a fucking murder victim. And then nobody arrive. Like what? That makes no sense.
Exactly, because
Makes no
there was
sense.
months between her being
Months.
there and then you moving
Yeah,
in.
months.
It's just so bizarre that the excuse they gave, basically,
Ah,
in the
ridiculous.
solicitors' letters,
And
absolutely
sure,
insane.
the sister dumped us. We Mike Lennon dumped me on the phone, saying, "Oh, it's not you, it's me." And I thought, no, babe, it's these people. I haven't done anything. You know, he said he couldn't go on with it because he didn't have my phone number. which I thought was fairly amazing considering we were on the phone at the time. So it would have been easy for me to go, oh, it's zero, whatever, but they
Yeah.
just, everything was just gobshite. Like, honestly, the amount of laughs, I know it sounds crazy, but it was almost hysterical. Like, if it was a comedy show that you were watching, you would have just been laughing your arse off. You couldn't have made it up. And then when people were like, I actually got a woman saying to me, how dare you speak of the British police as a foreigner? And I was like, do I sound like I am bashing them? I'm trying to get them to speak to me. I've tried to get arrested. I've even gone to a cop shop and gone in like a whirlwind. And he wouldn't take the complaint. He said he couldn't understand it. And I said, fine, just write my name down. He said, well, what'll I write? And I said, I woke up this morning and I discovered I wasn't going to be Miss Universe. Put that down because I'm really annoyed. Just put it down. Just write my fucking name down on a piece of paper. He said he wouldn't. I said, okay, I'll go outside and I'll kick the shit out of your patrol car outside. I'll smash all the windows. Will you arrest me? No. I was like, for God's sakes, I cannot. I'm the only person that you'll meet that cannot get a police officer to come and harass them. And I've tried. And I did get a phone call when I was complaining to the IPCC. Later on, I got a phone call late at night, which was hilarious. And I've only ever got one because it was kind of pointless threatening me. Some dude rang me and was like, we know where you are. I was like, fucking mighty. I'll have the kettle on waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you. Like, don't be ridiculous. Why are you threatening me? And what made me even laugh harder was the fact of they lived with me for 4 months. Why would I be frightened of them? I was well used to them. So, and I'd seen their level of expertise. And in all honesty, fucking Jesus, we're all like fucking Mensa candidates if that's the case. They're absolutely idiotic. I've never come across people that were so dumb that they couldn't even find their own arse in the dark. It was truly amazing. And nobody's helped us. Nobody's helped us. Everybody's just been like, oh yeah, that seems really bad. It sounds dangerous. We're living in it. And the problem then that we had was I was going to the council in where we're living now. And obviously they didn't believe my account either. And when I put the children back into school, and because they were out of school, I couldn't come up with a plausible explanation of why I was in the country for 6 months without telling this nonsense. And unfortunately, Sue Molyneux, one of the social workers from the East Riding Council, she referred me, after speaking to the Merseyside police, she referred me to a charity that relocates murderers and rapists outside of prison back into the community. And God love those people. They were the only people that actually helped us. They were the only people that actually helped us. And everybody else just, the abuse started then with the financial abuse. So I had to put my dog, this is how ridiculous they are. I had to put my dog down, and unfortunately I didn't, it cost £210 to put our poor dog down. And the money that was there was for the council tax. And I was getting paid, I think, 3 days later. So I kind of missed out on 2 days. Paid them, got a letter in the post about two weeks later saying, oh yeah, we're taking you to court because of lack of payment for council tax. And now we're getting acquisitions of wages. So yeah, they've taken thousands off us. They made us starve. One of them.
Is when. Sorry to interrupt. That's the thing. The council, the police, social services, even some solicitors, they're all in it together. So if you're taking on one, you're taking on them as an entirety.
Yeah, but what they didn't realise what I was doing was I was making people bear witness to me. It wasn't that I was asking them for help. I was making them bear witness, and I was collecting all their paperwork, and their paperwork is fucking ridiculous. So, you see, I didn't mind. I didn't mind not being able to complain to the IPCC. Sure, who cares? Sure, who cares? Who cares that I couldn't get through? What I was doing was I was making sure that I could record their bloody blatant disregard of us. So they have no leg to stand on. If somebody rang in and said, "Oh, I don't believe that you were a child murderer," I don't think like that. Fantastic, fantastic. Who wants to live like that? Please disregard what I'm saying. But you have to believe what the police said. So not only have I got my version of events, I got everybody else's. So I have two sides to this nonsense, and it's their side that needs to be explained. So I'm quite happy to do podcasts and all sorts, because as my family like to say, I'm very uncouth, and I'm more likened to a berserker than I am anything else. So in all honesty, if you're associating with me, Jesus, there better be a good reason for it. So
That's what I loved when we had that chat about you coming on here, and I explained, oh, we could do it live or we could pre-record it.
Yeah,
There's a chance people might troll you, and you were like,
please,
come at
please,
me, call me
please.
crazy, like call me anything. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like I was just saying to my friend earlier, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to come and get you and murder you," and bitch, I've been fucking 12 years thinking a murderer's been after me. Do you think I'm not prepared? Like, are you insane?
Exactly. Every
So,
scenario possible, I bet you've come up with.
yeah. And the problem that the police have is that they're so busy trying to discredit people. But I made sure that I got professional jobs. So technically, if anybody was to ask what I was like, there's about 40,000 people that can actually honestly say, "Oh no, she's mental. That woman, she's mental." I've had professional jobs. We pay our rent in full. We pay our council tax in full. We pay all our bills in full. We do not get any benefits. I even stopped. We didn't even get child benefit, because that was the way they were getting to us. They were getting through us financially. So once the financial abuse ended, because there was nothing else they could do, I'm like, yeah, fucking come at me now. Come on. And I got rid of the social workers, because I found out I had 8 social workers. Never met one of them. The last one I had was a guy called Jasper Bilton. Never met him. Never spoke to him. Don't even know what he looks like. But they rang me, because their favorite thing to do was to ring me to tell me if I could stop talking about this, they'd stop threatening to take the baby. Because the other 2 were fucked, obviously, because they were traumatized. But the baby, we'd shielded. So they were just coming to take the baby, never mind the other 2. And I had enough one day, and I said to her, I described what I looked like, and as you could imagine, what I sounded like. And I said, next time you ring me, I'm going to be at your office, and you can tell me to my face, do I sound like I'm going to be fun? So, they stopped ringing me after that. So I'm just one of those women. I have no problem you coming at me, but you better enjoy the process, because, as I like to tell people, would you like a problem? I'm here. So no, I have no. The police and all these people, what they do is they bank on your fear. And the problem is they are just like you and me. They're normal people. They've made mistakes. The problem is they can't admit the mistakes, because they'll look bad. But they are as frightened as you and I. And that's what they don't get. And they're so busy trying to threaten people. You're like, that's pointless. There's no need to threaten them. You've already terrified these people enough. Like, it's grand. So yeah, I've no problem if they want to come. Sure, Jesus, I'd even put the bloody kettle on. But if anybody does want to come and threaten to kill me, can you give me a bit of time so I can get I always said I wanted to try crack cocaine before I die. So just give me a bit of time. I might find it, and we'll have.
But I think that's the thing. some are intimidated. It works. They back down. They want you to go, no, no, I'm in the wrong. You're right because you're the
Yeah,
police. So it
yeah.
will work for some people. But
It does
I'm on
work.
the same page as you. Once you're over that fear and you've
Yeah,
accepted, I'm going to die one day. If
yeah,
you've
but
not
we're
got
all going
fear
to
of
die.
death,
Yeah,
yeah, that's it. Once
we're all
you're
going to
over
die.
that,
So it just depends on how. So, and at this stage, when my children were in the house, literally they could not sleep. My eldest son went to uni, and he'd been there for about 18 months. And he rang me up one morning. He was so proud. It was the proudest I've ever been, really. And he said, I did it. I did it. And I said, what did you do? He said, I left that night when I thought we were going to get murdered. And I gave him that bag. It was like a go bag. And unfortunately, the child decided that for the next 8 years, he would have a go bag on his body. So he slept with it, he ate with it, he went everywhere with it. And it contained his birth certs, passport, things like that, just in case we had to leave quickly. And he rang me to tell me that he left it at home. He managed to take it off and leave it at his halls. And he left the house. And I was like, that's fantastic. So and none of our children have any drug or alcohol problems. I don't even drink. Um because I thought, Jesus, it's going to be hard enough to come back from this. Coming back with an alcohol problem is going to be twice as hard. So no, we've just been in hell for a long time. It's they put us on the special bus to hell, but the problem was they left a few seats empty. So I've just come back to collect the cunts. So yeah, I've no problem.
but that's
I've
the
no problem.
thing. What progress that is, because metaphorically, that bag is baggage,
Yeah,
emotional baggage,
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
able to say, no, I've overcome it. That's incredible.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
shall,
sure.
are you happy for me to put the link out and have some people join us on panel if you've got any questions or
Yeah,
anything
yeah. If
like
they can
that, or
understand
just have
the
a
words
chat?
I'm saying, or I haven't bored
Yeah,
anybody today.
lovely.
So once I write it down, it'll be fine. It'll be more cohesive.
Oh no, you've been absolutely fantastic. What a story to have to tell. It's traumatizing, and
Oh,
trauma in itself can jumble things, and you've done
yeah.
fantastic.
Well, it's so there's so much of it. There's so much of it. It's like I haven't got enough breath in my body to tell you everything. It's there's so much of it. And even my friend said to me earlier, he said, "Oh, maybe this will be a way to get rid of the baggage." The problem I have is I have a bloody cruise ship. I don't have baggage. I have a fucking cruise ship trailing behind me. So I just want to get on with my life. I just want to let it go. And well, I don't mean let it go. I mean like let it out there. Um,
Yeah,
I'll never let it go. I'll never let it go. So until somebody comes back and speaks like normal people, um, no, I've literally never spoken to a police officer since the IPCC people, and like nobody's ever stood in front of me with them. So yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's like, let's hush her up. Like, let's pretend it didn't happen. Like, we can't have people knowing this. And I
yeah.
think that's why platforms like this are amazing,
Oh, these are
and
so
that's what
important.
I aim to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, what you're doing, Lauren, is so important. It's you couldn't even imagine how important it is because when you spoke to me, I was, do you know what? I haven't had such relief that somebody actually reached out and said, "Oh, this sounds really crazy. Are you okay?" In 12 years, nobody's done that. Nobody's done that. So, you
That's
should,
what I mean. I was I was shocked, in disbelief. But like I said, I've seen the documents, and my
oh
story's not
yeah,
the same as yours, but there are aspects that are
yeah,
identical.
yeah,
And I think that's important. It helped. That's why I started my channel, to tell my story, because I think it helps. It's a bit of a healing
it does
process.
help.
It
Yeah,
helps you to get it out there. I think it's important to expose this kind of thing, because people are, oh no,
yeah.
that's the police. They would never do that.
Oh,
And
I've
I
heard
think
that
we're
so
seeing
many times.
slightly, yeah, in the media, we're seeing about these rapists and child
Yeah,
molesters, and
yeah,
it's slowly coming to light, but not quite as a free platform like
no.
this, where you can just get it all off your chest and,
They're not coming to
you know,
light at
tell
all.
people.
You know, I know it sounds awful, but what is coming to light is just the collusion. It's they know that they're doing stuff. It's like, I think myself that man that murdered Sarah Everard, you know, the reason why they had these people was because they were getting the job done. That's what they were doing. They were getting the job done. And when they interact with members of the public, they're not looking at us like we're members of the public. They're looking at us like we're criminals. That's the problem. And they
That's it.
just can't, they can't work
Dehumanized.
it out. Yeah, they can't work it out. And you know, and they're like, oh, the public hate us. No, nobody hates you. What, you're a necessary evil there. You know, like, I'm not bashing the police. They're a need. You know, they are a need. I haven't needed to ring them myself now. I don't think, even if I did ring them, I don't think anybody'd come. So, you know, I have no trust in them. I have no faith in them. They all know about it. They all know about it because my middle son, because they were starving us through financial abuse. I had a social worker say to me that if I avail of food banks, they'll know about it, and if I avail of food banks, it means that I can't feed the children. So they'll take the baby. So we didn't avail of food banks. So they made us starve. And my middle child stole food out of Asda and was caught. And the police brought him back to the house. And they knew about me. Like, they knew about me. They were saying to me, oh, don't you think your mother's gone through enough? And I thought, it's ye fucking people that's made me go through this, not my son. It's you people. And that's how they work. That's how they work. It's like, oh yeah, sure, it's fine. There's a murderer. You're like, oh, we didn't want to notify the alleged offender. Well, I'm not a police officer, but that would be the first thing I'd be looking for, is the alleged offender. That probably could help in your investigation. But yeah, they're idiotic. They're idiotic. They're trained for you to be combative. They are not trained for you to be compliant. And that's the problem that they have with me. I'm perfectly compliant. I'm perfectly compliant. It just doesn't mean I'm going to be happy about it, but I will be compliant. And the other problem that they have is we are the victims. So just because I'm not the nicest of victims doesn't not mean that I'm not a victim. So in all honesty, I should be allowed to go and congratulate these police officers that have kept me alive. They protected me with their lives from a murderer. So I should be able to go and say to them, thank you for your protection. I'm not unaccustomed to protection myself. So, you know, maybe I might give you a bout of it. Maybe. You know, like, they can't even come out and say I might be a threat, because all they've done is spent their time saying, oh, Mrs. Kennedy, she's a vulnerable adult. Anytime anybody's ever met me, vulnerability is not the word that comes to mind. That is not the first word that comes to mind.
I think that's clear just from speaking with you. Yeah, you don't come across as a wallflower.
Yeah, no, I'm a nightmare. My previous job, even Keir Starmer has had me. Unfortunately, God love him. I used to be the COVID swabber. So I was a COVID swabber for an airport and a ferry terminal. And I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go swab Keir Starmer. And they kept saying to me, oh, you better call him sir. Call him sir. And when I got there, I had to get up early, drive in the snow, get to it. And he sits down on my stool and he says, can I do this to myself? And I was like, no, babe, I have to do it to you. Everybody nearly lost their mind because I called him babe. So no, I'm not, I'm certainly not a shrinking violet. I'm certainly not that. I'll come and help you. I'll sort out any problems. I'm handy to know. You know, but no, I am still the victim here. I am still the victim. So I'm just not the nicest victim that they'd have. That's the problem. So yeah.
That's it. They have a sort of mindset of what a victim is, don't they?
Yeah.
And if you're a strong woman,
Oh,
you can be vulnerable and still be a strong woman.
cope with that.
They've just got these boxes, yeah. And what they've learned about people in textboots, they've no
Yeah,
grasp of
that's all they've done.
reality.
That's all they've done. The Alison O'Donnell, the SIO, the problem that she created as the SIO was she was fast tracked. She was a very, very young woman. She was a lot younger than us. And I think that's what was the driving force was, oh my God, we have they were speaking to me like I was a cross between Rosemary West and Baby P's mother. That's how they were speaking to me. And when the
Wow.
undercover, when they were coming in, and the energy man, that's why I loved him. He was absolutely hilarious. He comes into my house, and the first thing he says to me is, "Oh, where's your children? They're very quiet." And I thought, wow, stranger, how the fuck do you know I even have kids? There's no evidence of children in this house where you've just walked in. And he said, "Oh, are you
Yeah.
very, you must be very strict." And I thought, no, I'm not strict. What's the problem with me is I've broken my neck, but nobody's bothered to ask me that question. So, could you imagine watching horror unfold in front of your eyes in your own house with your own children, and everybody that you love is stuck in this house, and there's nothing you can do? It was that's what got it for me. It was that, and I couldn't even move. Like it took everything I had just to stand up. Like just any effort was overwhelming, and they didn't care. They didn't care, you know. And I actually wanted to keep it quiet. Like I didn't even want to tell anybody what I thought had happened, because I was hoping that because they'd speak to us, I'd be able to have a joke with them and say, "Oh God, lads, you were fucking useless at this, but it's all right. It's only me and him that know, so nobody else needs to know about this, because I don't, it's not something I want to go out and say." Um, but yeah, they just, if they hadn't have panicked, and sure, the only fool that knew they'd come undercover was me. So that's how you know they panicked, because all they had to do was to deny that they were ever there. But the bloody Egypts were like, "Oh no, we were only there for a day." I don't give a fuck if you were there for 3 milliseconds. You shouldn't have fucking been with me at all. So a day, 2 days, I don't care. So like, and because I can place them everywhere, sure, I know where I went. And the funny thing was, in Ireland, I actually met them. I met them. It was hilarious, because they didn't understand the etiquette of the road on in rural Ireland. And I was at this house, and I'd been there for a bit, so they must have panicked, like, why wasn't I moving? So they'd come to check it out, but it's only a one road, and they're sat in the middle of the road, and I'm flashing them, going, "Come on, you can pass me here." No, they just sat there like numpties. And when I passed them, it was a one of those I think it was like a Ford Escort, the estates, and there was three men in it, and I thought, there's nothing down this road for three Englishmen, and they stuck out like sore thumbs. They just didn't realize it. They didn't realize it. So I sure I can place them everywhere I was. That's a fucking big problem, because when I questioned, um if they'd gone to the guards, if they'd gone to the local council, if they'd gone to the local TDs, they would have told them about me, because I'm a fucking nightmare. I am a literal nightmare. So they would have said, yeah, no, this woman is crazy, and don't whatever you do, don't send her paperwork, and whatever you do, don't bloody speak, because she'll record you. So they didn't know that. They didn't know that. But if they had, like, why are British police officers in the Republic of Ireland? Could you imagine? Could you imagine the hassle that would cause? So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I remember going into the history of
Oh yeah.
you know, and
Yeah,
the sort of political side of how
exactly.
insane that would be.
Exactly. So when
It's
I questioned one of the guards that I knew, and I said, "Was there any, like, was there any?" He said, "No, don't be ridiculous. We've never heard anything like that." And Ireland is a small place. Jesus, we know each other. You know, they know if they know your business before you've done it. It's that kind of place. And not one person knew that a British serving police officer was in the country. Only I did. So, you know, that's bad. That's bad. They're not allowed to do that. You know, I don't think the Irish guards would be allowed to come traipse around England and be questioning English private citizens in their own homes. I don't think that's the thing. You know, so like they can't even they
That's
can't
it.
so
It's
like
crossing that
yeah,
line, isn't it?
yeah. And then they decided not to give us any benefits because obviously um we're 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 not from the country. So if you know, if people found out, oh geez, a murderer had come and killed their kid and now they're getting benefit, that would have been a nightmare. So they didn't give us anything. And all it was child benefit. That's all it was. And it wasn't like I was going to be sitting in England doing nothing. I remember saying to somebody, you know, when I get to England, I'm going to hit the ground running. I just wasn't expecting the fucking ground to nail me that hard. So I wasn't there to take benefits. I was there to work. And all we've done for the last nearly over 10 years is we've paid into this country. We've not taken a penny out of it. We've paid in, we've paid our taxes, we've done everything that we were supposed to do, and I'm still not allowed to complain. So how is that fair? How is that fair?
That's it. And I think you've just experienced the worst side of
Oh yeah.
British, like, you know, the
Yeah.
absolute scum side and the
Yeah.
corruption, and
Yeah. That's why
it's
I was kind of half happy that we did stay in the country because the people that I did meet, the proper English people that I did meet, were nothing but nice to me. They were nothing but nice to me, and they tried to help us. I'm not talking about the council or anybody in authority. I'm talking about normal, everyday citizens. Never once
yeah,
did they hurt us. Never once. All they wanted to do was to try and protect us. But there's no protection from the police. Who the fuck do you ring? Oh, the police are coming for me. Who do you ring? The fucking police. Yeah, okay, mighty. You know, there's nobody. There's nobody. There's nobody.
yeah,
Can
and I've experienced
I
that. Who do you go
ask,
to when
uh,
it's them?
can we ask it, Amanda if she's seen Paul's outside toilet? Oh, I thought he was talking about our girl. That's what I was worried about as well. That's why I asked them, did they want to come in to go to the toilet? I was like, don't be pissing on the garden. Like, don't be pissing on the garden. No,
I
I'm
say
going
I
to
put
read
out to
the.
see if anybody wants to ask any questions, or I put the link out if anybody wants to come up, and even if
Oh,
you've not got
yeah,
questions, just to say hello.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's in,
I,
so it's an insane thing. That's why I got their side of the story because I thought I'm demented now. So, you know, like, I'll just get their side of the story. Theirs is a bit more, obviously, it's full of authority. So that, you know, the British public will have to believe the police. So the police maintain that there's a murder after me, but, you know, I wasn't that important enough to tell. And I had to get that information through a bloody solicitor. So, yeah.
that's it. And it was a battle in itself just to get that, wasn't it? And they offered
Yeah.
you a small amount of compensation, which you politely said no, thank you.
Oh,
Not
I
in
love
your
that.
words, but
Well, that did make me laugh because poor old Mike Lennon said, "Oh, what do you want to tell them?" So I said, "Oh, verbatim." I said, "Shove it up your fucking hole as far as it goes. Hope it chokes you." In actual fact, I wanted to buy them, use the money to buy a dictionary so that they could understand the definition of protection. It's not trying to kill me. It's maybe trying to help me, but not try and kill me. So I think they've mistook a word here or there. I'm not sure. because we're always
And drove you to the edge of insanity as well.
oh yeah, sure. It's been insane. Honestly, I've researched. I've looked for people like me, and we couldn't find anybody. And I spoke to a lawyer in passing. I've spoken to loads of people. That's why, all these violence against women charities, all these, oh my God, all these women. I I reached out to a majority of these charities, and lo and behold, guess what? It was a bit too fucking dangerous. So nobody really wanted to help me there. So yeah, so nobody wants to help. And I found that everybody loves police corruption until it's too much police corruption, and then they don't want to know. So it's you see it on the news yourself. They're like, oh my God, this happens. We should set up an inquiry. I've done the inquiry for free.
That's it.
So I don't need an
That's the thing.
inquiry.
It's asking them to investigate themselves. Like
Oh,
I put a meme up, and it's a guy being pulled over, and it says, "Do you know you were driving too fast?" And the guy driving says, "Thanks for bringing it to my attention. I'll investigate myself and see if I did anything wrong."
exactly.
They wouldn't
Exactly.
apply that to the public. So why
Um,
on earth are the police free to do it? Makes no
yeah,
sense.
sure. It's like when sure anytime when I did ring them up, what always made me laugh about them is so it's the PSD. I used to throw in an odd stupid word because I thought, Christ, I don't want these people to think I have a IQ more than a dead rat. So I want them to keep thinking I'm a piece of shit. So I used to say, oh, can I speak to the professional standards board? Um, and I got it because the dozy mayor on the phone, she repeated it back to me, and I thought, gotcha, love. Um, but there was wee Joel on the IPCC, and when I'd said to him, he was like, "Oh yes, it's a protocol. It's this, it's that," and I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm asking you to do is to do this protocol," and nobody's doing it. So the next thing he says, oh, can I just make sure where you live? Is it this address? And I'm like, yeah, of course it is. Because what they're expecting you to say is, why do you need to know my address? Are you trying to frighten me? But I was like, fucking right it is. This is the address. But, yeah. So what do you want? So they couldn't, there was never a chance for them to do anything. I was always like, yeah, okay. All right then. Fine. So yeah, they picked the right person. They picked the right lunatic. You know, there's a joke in
That's
Ireland.
it. Not many will have survived.
There's a comedian in Ireland called Tommy Tiernan, and his joke is that Ireland is an open air asylum. So we're all fucking mad bastards. And the problem is, I come from the furthest corner of the asylum where it's wild, and I'm as wild as fuck. So good luck to them. Good luck to them. And I really don't mind being in small rooms. Sure, I do that all the time. I'm in tiny rooms with people losing their shit. So I'm hardly going to be like, I'm really frightened. If it was a mob of sugar plum fairies, I'd still have the same problem. It's the mob that's going to kill you. It's not who it is. It's the mob. So unfortunately, I got the whole gang. So yeah.
That's it. But you're still on your feet, and you're still here to tell the tale. There's so
Oh, of
many
course.
that don't make it.
Yeah.
That's a technique they use. They'll coerce you to suicide and
Well, that
gaslight you
letter.
and all
Well,
psychological warfare.
yeah. It's that letter because when I received the letter, I couldn't work out why they'd sent it to me until I thought, oh, do you know what? They're sending it to me thinking that I don't know anything. So could you imagine 7 months down the line, you're terrified out of your mind. You're in a different part of the country that you've no idea of. You can't get to your family because you're too frightened to go to them because you think you're going to put them in danger. And the letter states that, oh, because I panicked and I left, I basically left the protection of Merseyside police. And now I'm on my own with a murderer that they don't know even still lives in the area. So I'm like, oh, you're trying to get me to go over the cliff. But the problem was we'd already taken a fucking swan dive off it. months before. So it was pointless. It was pointless. But that's exactly what it was for. It was the, for me to kill myself. That's exactly what it
Yeah.
was for. So, and there's no other,
It's a
they have no
special,
other excuse.
sorry to interrupt,
No,
it's a
no.
special type of trauma when you're
Oh,
taking on
yeah.
the police and you have police harassment and things like that. It's
Oh,
like no other trauma.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely devastating.
You cannot get anybody
And
to
and there's
hear it. You can't get anybody to see it. Nothing. It's like they have you in a perfect spot where you're just. It's like killing fish in a barrel. You're the fish. That's the problem. So
exactly, and it'll isolate your friends, family, and some it'll be you as well. You know, you want to protect those people, so you isolate from them to keep
yeah,
them safe,
yeah. Sure,
and
I
that's how they
didn't.
want you.
Yeah. We didn't have any friends for years, because I was terrified. I was terrified that, if there was a murderer, sure, what's going to happen if you're beside me? Like, I'm going to have to protect you as well as myself. But, like, I can't tell you that. So to save everything, I'm going to not have friends. And it was like when I put myself in the paper. The reason why I put myself into the Liverpool Echo was because I'd actually watched a lecture that John Murphy himself had given to John Moores University. And I was drinking a cup of coffee. Well, I nearly spat the coffee across the room. The Muppet is up on the pulp, or like on the whatever the lecture thing is. And he says, oh, the integrity of it, his force, himself, the integrity. And this is the feckin' agent that sent me that letter. And he's talking about integrity, like they have it. I was like, God, you're a lying bunch of
Exactly.
you lying
It,
bunch of
it's
bastards.
so it's like the Truman Show
Oh,
almost. You know,
yeah.
when you wake up
Yeah.
and you realize it's all for show, none of it's
It's all for
real,
sure.
and people are
Yeah.
playing along with it, and it's like, no, that's not reality. That's not
No,
true. They're not.
no.
These are, but it's like you go to court, and just because the police officers they're held with the high standards and the trustworthy, and it's like, no,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
because
go
that,
and check out who the police
yeah,
are.
but it's that's why they've taught us this throughout decades, that the police, we all do as a society, we all put too much credence into their intelligence. That's the problem. We hold them to a higher standard because that's what we're told, and they're supposed to be perfect human beings. They're not. They're same as us. They're the same as me and you. That some of them can pay their bills, probably having an affair with somebody. Who cares? They're the same as us. But it's this nonsense that they go, oh, we're much better than you. No, you're not, bitch. All you did was you went and got a job. You got an interview for a job. Fair play. I've got it myself. I've got jobs.
That's it. For
And
eight
that's it.
eight hours a day, they wear that uniform, and then they're just regular people the rest of the time.
Yeah.
ATL, I'd
Yeah.
love you to come up on panel, love, and say hello.
I'm going to have to get my
ATL's,
charger. Sorry, I'm going to be moving around for a second. I'm just trying to find a charger.
that's all right, sweetheart. ATL's fighting corruption with the school system and the police in America at the moment.
Oh,
It's
Christ.
absolutely
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
what
wouldn't
they
be.
cover up and things like
Oh,
that.
should they cover up everything? They cover up everything. They can't help themselves, you know. It's because they don't want to look stupid. That's all it is. They just don't want to look dumb, but they can't help themselves.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
have one.
hi ATL. Welcome to the
Hi, how
stream.
are
This
you?
is Amanda.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Amanda.
How are
Good,
you?
good. You brought up something really interesting about how, they just took a test and they interviewed for a job. It's a job.
Yeah, it's a job. Mm.
And, how to notice how when you ask a police their name, they won't even give you their full name. They'll give you a last name and an initial,
Yeah,
or they have qualified immunity.
yeah,
It's almost like the state is not only is the state over the people, but they've actually created a third entity. So you got the victim of the police, you got the police officer, the man, and then you have the police officer that is there, that is infallible. I mean, he's just omnipotent.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird thing, and they're trying to really stress that third person, not the cop, the person, and not the victim of the police.
Yeah.
They're trying to push the power of the omnipotent being they've created.
Yeah.
In this situation, and they're trying to make it almost like a corporate.
Yeah, that's exactly what they tried to do. So that you're going, oh my God, I better do as I'm told because, you know, this corporation, if I don't, I'll be in trouble. You're like, no, it doesn't work like that. You're the servant. You're the public servant. You chose this job. So you chose what to do in this job. And they just can't help themselves. And it's always about making you feel like you're doing something wrong when you're questioning them. And you're like, but you're an idiot. So why am I asking an idiot what's going on?
When you try to
crazy.
report a crime that they did, they're not looking at you as taking a report. They're investigating you for harassment.
Yeah, that's why I only ever rang them once. Anytime that I was corresponding with them, I would just do it the once. I'd get as much information as I could in the one phone call, so that there was no comeback where they were like, oh, it's harassment or malicious communication. I just did it once because that's what they're banging on.
They're trying to make it so.
Yeah.
And I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, but they're doing that in this country now at the moment because they want to push it to the point of where you can't actually speak. They're trying to stop protesting here. You know, they do everything they can to control. But what we're not getting is that we outnumber all these people. We all outnumber them. And
Amanda, you can't go down that road.
Oh God, no, Jesus, I couldn't be arsed going down anywhere.
I'm not presuming that you would. I'm just saying in general, you would be taken down with a lot more force without any kind of regard for your No, but the harassment thing, if you report a crime on a police officer, they're not going to take that report. But what they are doing when you are talking to them is they're investigating you for harassment.
Yeah.
So if you report a crime on them, you're harassing them. If you report a crime of the government, you're harassing the government.
Yeah, you're harassing them. Yeah. That's exactly what they've said.
And they don't hide it either. They
don't need to, because there's nobody else to question them. There's nobody for anybody to ring to say, oh, how you know, can you stop doing that, or can you please? Oh, I won't smoke in here. That's what they do. That's what they like to do. You know, unfortunately, I was investigated. I found out later I was investigated under the Section 8 of the PACE Act for murderers and terrorists. So they literally knew everything about me. They just didn't do it right. So and I was trying to give them all the information that I had about me, so that they could investigate it properly, but they didn't, because they'd already had an assumption, and that's what caused the problems.
And since they're immune from the law, they're going to damn well do it. And you know, you have to remember too, they enjoy this.
Oh yeah,
they went for this job because they like that kind of work. This is where they get their satisfaction. This is where they find their contentment. Acting and doing these things. They're happy doing them. It's not just a job.
No, it's a calling.
I mean, the 80s have given us, you know, careers, not jobs. They're careers now.
Yeah.
And
it's when they say we're all family.
Yeah. They decided they wanted a career in law enforcement. So what they're doing when they're going after you is something that they truly inside enjoy doing.
Oh yeah, it's just beautiful.
They want to be like, and their heroes are Miami Vice.
Yeah.
The heroes are NYPD Blue.
Yeah, yeah,
It's TV characters. Those are
yeah.
their
That's
heroes.
exactly.
So
That's exactly what they were doing.
They portray themselves after their heroes that they see on TV.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, you
That's what
take
they were.
that.
Yeah, but
Go
that's
ahead. I'm
why they
sorry.
came up with Mr. Sparks. That's why they came up with the Mr. Sparks, the drainage company, because Mr. Sparks happens to be a guy called Bill Sparks, who was a SAS commando. That's why we were howling with laughter, because they must have been going, "Oh my God, we're so cool. We're so cool. Look, we're behind enemy lines." And you're like, "No, bitch, you're at a fucking housewife's house.
Yeah.
I can barely fucking bake." So, like, in all honesty, it's not cool at all. It's that's why I was actually frightened for their own safety, because if they thought they were being cool at my house and they
Yeah.
go to a criminal's house, these people are dead.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. If they'd put neon signs on themselves coming in, they wouldn't have been as conspicuous.
But
Like, they were so
Amanda,
ridiculous.
hold on, Amanda.
Yeah,
You brought up something interesting there.
yeah.
Because they knew that they were at a housewife's house, and that is why they were acting like that.
Yeah, no, they thought they were at a murderer's house, and what they were looking. The problem was everybody,
I don't think so.
my mother, my father, my brother's friends, everybody looked frightened coming into my house. Everybody did. The problem was from the outside, that's what they're seeing, but the reality of it was they were frightened for me. They weren't
Sure.
frightened of me. They were
Sure.
frightened for me. And what they were actually witnessing, slow, agonizing death that was being ran out in front of them, and that's why they panicked, because they thought what they had on their hands was
I know.
rosemary wreath crossed with baby pay, but what they
It
actually
was a
had was just
game.
a
It's a game.
demento
It's a
from a
game
mountain.
to them.
Oh,
It's
it
a
was a
game to
game. It
them.
was a game. Yeah, absolutely,
To
totally agree.
them, it's fun. It's a
Yeah, it was.
gross indifference. It's gross
Yeah,
indifference.
yeah. Sure, they must have had a
It goes
wonderful time
beyond.
at the West of Ireland, because
Yeah, I
I
mean,
come
you're
from
not
a
even a
really beautiful
human.
place. No, they
Yeah,
did
because
not
you weren't
treat us
even
as
human.
human. No,
You were not
as
human.
well as I found out, you know how everybody says, "Oh, you have human rights. Your human rights." You're only allowed to have those human rights when somebody in authority deems you fit for them. That's
Of
the
course.
problem. So when people say to me, "Oh, you have a human right," no, you don't. Unless somebody has given it to you, you have none. It's like you're in America. They tell you you're free in America. Well, you're actually a bit more freer than Britain is. But they tell you, "Oh, you're free to do anything. Go outside, try and do something." Babe, you're not free. You're not free to do nothing. I can barely get down the bloody end of the road. I've, if it's like if they decided that they were going to sue me, I have about £2.30 in my bag. That's it. That's it. I'm on the I can't afford to eat diet, because the cost of living is shocking here. But that's
It's
what they
getting
do.
that way here as well.
Yeah, yeah,
It's getting
yeah,
that way. I mean, a
yeah,
lot of people are, believe it or not, there's a lot of people hurting. They're at the point where, they're deciding, all right, tonight's not meat night. We're not going to have meat tonight.
oh yeah,
And,
yeah,
you know what? And that hasn't, I haven't seen that since I was a little kid. I mean,
yeah,
we're going back to, late 60s, early 70s, where
yeah,
money
yeah,
actually had a lot of value to it. And I
yeah.
haven't seen this kind of mentality
It's
since then,
control.
where
It's
they're
all
straight.
It
about,
is control.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all about control. It's all about control, because when the internet started up, we all found out about each other. That's what the issue is. Like when all this was happening to us, we just felt so alone. We were. I remember saying, I've lived on the side of a mountain, and it's isolated, and it's very rural, but I never felt such isolation of being in the middle of all these people. I've never been so isolated. And it was only when the reach of the internet, and you suddenly go, "Oh, Jesus, I found I found a dude in America that's having the same problem. There's a dude in Australia that's having the same problem. And now we're all speaking to each other. And everybody's like, oh, right, they need to police us by consent. Well, I don't consent. Can I opt out of that?
It's a battle. It's a
It is a
battle, and
battle.
I've heard a lot of things. And I brought this up before, but it all goes back to a very early document. It was a papal bull back in, God, I want to say 1405. I can't think of the year, but it made anyone that got a birth certificate, a subject of the empire.
Yeah.
And that was with England. It was with several other France. And you guys, you went to you had the Protestant Reformation, which nullified the name of and a lot of people say, well, it's not in force now because we changed to the Protestant, but it's not. It's a corporation. They did not negate every policy and procedure in this corporation when England had the Protestant Reformation. They didn't negate all the bylaws in there. They changed the title of the document. And it's very important in this conversation, and I feel horrible that I do not remember the year of the papal bull or the name of the document. But it was to make anyone that had a birth certificate a subject, and that led to a lot of different things. Because I know in the States, you could denounce your citizenship. You're allowed to do that. No.
The Magna Carta.
Yeah, you see, I went the opposite way because I was like, oh, I'm going to be compliant in everything. I'm going to pay taxes. I'm going to pay this. I'm going to do everything that you want me to do, because then you have no excuse not to help me. So, even with your compliance, they still don't care. They still don't care. They have the power. It's the power.
You could show them legal documents showing that my way is the right way legally, and they still won't care.
Yeah, sure. But if you walk up to, it's like, if you see any of these audits and stuff, and people say, oh, Section 8, what, like XYZ. If you actually thought about it, the police don't know the bloody sections themselves. No. They don't know nothing. All they know is that they've got a uniform on and they can do whatever the fuck they want to you. That's it. That's it. So I didn't go down the route of, oh, this was a section. I actually don't care about sections. I'm just like, just do your job. Just do your job right.
Well,
and then
the police aren't legally trained.
Are they fit? They're trained for combativeness. That's all they're trained for. They're trained to, keep us under control. That's what they're trained for. They're not trained for compliance.
It sounds bad.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm probably boring the life
I think it's my.
I can hear you.
I think it's my sound.
Back in the 1960s, when there was a lot of riots going on in the States, all the universities from that time period are all built a certain way, and a lot of buildings in that time period are built a certain way, and they're built for population control.
Yeah.
And you can
I don't mind.
You could Google this. It's not common information, but it's readily available. It's not something that you have to dig. If you look at population control building structures, you'll see all the buildings in the 1960s. Why they have those shapes to them was for population control. Yeah.
It's just it's bizarre. It's when you start going into it. That's why I didn't want to go down too much of their policies, procedures, anything like that, because I wanted to keep it as it was, which was just a mistake. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted them to fix the mistake, and that was it. The problem that I had was what happened after the 28th of the cover-up is the issue I have. So I'm a non-willing compliant person. So I'll do what you want, but don't ask me to do it with a smile, because I'll whine about it for the next 20 hours. You know, and that was the problem. They could not grasp that concept that I was saying, I will keep this quiet. I won't even sue you people, because at the end of the day, it was an allegation of murder, regardless whether it was fake information or not. Unfortunately, I do have to say the police did their job. They really did. I think I had about 20 minutes to myself when they weren't surrounding me. So they did their job. They did it mighty. It was the fact of it was a mistake, and then they covered it up. That's what the issue is.
The
So
covering up part is
yeah,
hard.
that's the
That's
hard
hard to
bit.
get. You can't get past
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because
And
now they know. Now it makes me think that it wasn't really a mistake.
oh no, because you see, that's the other issue. I always say you give too much credence to people's intelligence, because if it was collusion, there was no reason for it. I'm
Yeah.
hardly the biggest
No,
threat in the
I
world.
understand, but I'm not talking about intent here.
Yeah, no, the
Because
intent was.
no, I'm not talking about intent. I'm talking about something. You'll notice that police have a tendency to say, "Well, I don't know that. Well, I don't know your name, or I don't know this."
Yeah,
And they play dumb.
yeah,
Well, the people saying it are not the people that you have to worry about. It's the people training him to
yeah,
act and say these things.
yeah,
And it's not that a mistake was made at his level. A mistake was made at the level where the person who taught him how to act like that did.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
where the problem is. And
yeah.
he's too well protected.
Oh, they're so well protected. But the problem with their protection is, it's like, when somebody says, "Oh, they stepped on you like dog shit." Well, because I am a housewife, and any other housewives listening will know that dog shit goes feckin' miles away. So it'll go into your house, it'll go into your stairs, it'll go into carpets, it'll go everywhere. So I don't mind being like dog shit, because I'm everywhere. They just can't get rid of me. That's the problem. So I'm stuck with them as they are stuck with me. So
Yeah.
that's the other problem that they have. And
Yeah, Amanda, we're
it was a
kin.
major because it was a major incident team. It's not like some dude in their little uniforms at the side of the road going, "Where are you going? Give me your name. I want to know what you're doing." These are major incident teams. This is a
Yep.
city of Liverpool where they're dealing with major incidents, terrorism, murder, and these are the numpties that they've employed. God love the people of Liverpool. Honestly, the only thing I'd say to them is, don't even get a padlock. It's pointless. It's like when people used to think that my house would be like Fort Knox, but unfortunately, I kept every open. I made sure all the doors were unlocked, the windows were unlocked, because in my head, I was thinking, if a murderer's coming in to get me, what will happen is I'll make this house a prison for the rest of for the kids, and I need them to get out of this house. So that was my intention all the time. It was like, as long as they're drawn to me, everybody else is safe. Because all I'm thinking, I have about 15 seconds of rage in me that I could do something, I could like at least defend myself. But in all honesty, a feckin' well-built toddler could take me out at this point. I have broken my neck. I do have a heart condition. I am 44 years old. I am traumatized by the police. And I'm trying to work. I'm trying to feed kids. I'm trying to put them into uni and trying to sort this out. And no, like, it's so difficult. It's so difficult,
I know,
But
Amanda. I
yeah,
know. I can
you know,
almost a lot of the situations, not all of them, but some of those situations that you mentioned, I could pretty much cut and paste onto myself.
yeah, sure. That's why I didn't kill myself in Westward Ho, because the funny thing was, it was where Kipling, the Jungle Book. He actually wrote it on the hill that we were in. We were on a campsite of caravans. And I thought, oh God, I can't kill a whole entire family here because it'll ruin Kipling's Jungle Book. And I thought, even if I wrote a 600-page novel to explain why I killed us, that would never see the light of day. And all it would be is that that you'd find out that this Irish woman had killed her entire family because she was homesick. And that's what they would have brought out. So I made a promise to the kids that I would. To me, it was like an impossible promise to stay alive long enough to get them to 18. And when they got to 18, my advice to them was, get away from me. Get away from me as far as you can, because
they pulled a number on you, didn't they?
Oh yeah. For years, we didn't actually go out together as a family because I was too frightened to be out in public together. So, and myself and Stephen, my husband, have never been in the car together for roughly about 11 years, because I was terrified that if we got caught in a car crash, the kids would be doomed. So, unfortunately, I got the best compliment I ever got was from an ex-soldier who'd done tours of Northern Ireland, and he said that my evasive techniques were actually pretty good, and that he would take a leaf out of my book if he needed to. And I was like, oh wow, great, this is excellent. You know, not only am I trying to cook dinner, I'm trying to figure out how to not get murdered. You know, so yeah, it's been insanity.
Yeah, no, it's I've been listening.
That's why I was so keen to have you on, because your story is incredible.
Oh, it's demented, literally. And
it's demented.
Yeah, and the only people, this is the awful thing about it, the only people that could actually appreciate all my hard work for 12 years.
Is that sound coming through okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. But it's the only people that can appreciate my work, basically, is the people that have done it to us, because they know how far they made me crawl. So yeah, nobody else knows what hard work has been put into it. I haven't even slept. I don't think I've actually slept a full night since. So, because sleeping was even worse than being awake. Because I'd have a recurring.
You don't have control.
No, because I had two recurring dreams. So, because I have 3 boys, one of the dreams was that I'd be brought into a locked room with like men that I couldn't see their face, and there'd be like 3 big windows, and the kids would be on the opposite side. And what they'd do is they'd close the curtains, and all I'd hear is the kids screaming. So I never slept.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Don't relive it.
Oh, sure, I relive it all the time, because unfortunately I have a thing.
Not with us.
I have
take a break here.
Oh yeah, sure. I go to work and everything. I still do my housewifey things, and I do everything else. Like, some people know what's happened to me, and then people that work with me, some of them don't. So I don't bring it out. I don't bring it out.
But even when you explain it, just say you had nightmares. You don't have to.
Oh sure, I've had literal
don't make
nightmares.
yourself relive it in small places. You don't have to.
I know.
A lot of the people here understand. A lot of the people here in this community that you're talking to now, you don't really have to explain things as much.
Oh yeah,
as you do, is because it's, for a lot of people, what you just explained is more of a television movie. And it can't be reality.
Yeah, it's because we've lived it so long on our own that for me to try and convey, I'm trying to get people to go, oh, I believe you. And it's like, I've spent 12 years of people telling me, oh, the police wouldn't do that. And you're like, you don't know what the police do. Like, you literally do not know. If you've never had any dealings with them, you do not know what the fear is like. It's unbelievable. Knowing that you can get murdered, lost, nobody cares, because nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. So, that's why I did the jobs that I did. so that if it needs be, if I did go missing, at least somebody might ask, where the feck have I gone? So, you know, it's been, yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Don't relive it. The problem is this is how we live. This is how we live.
I mean, there's got to be a way.
Yeah, but I'm a stubborn Irish woman, and what they're aiming for is that yeah, but I'm supposed to be dead. Like, you know, I'm supposed to be dead.
No matter what, there's always got to be a way.
Oh yeah, sure. This is the way, because they can't get away from me. That's the problem. Once it's out, it's like as soon as I finish speaking here, I'll be going home, cooking dinner, making and getting ready to go to work. It's not an issue. The problem that if it does go further than here, it means that they're stuck with me. So they're going to have to explain why this lunatic is beside them. So, you know, I really don't have any problems. I know it sounds like I do, but I really don't. We've managed to come out of it. And I tell my children every day of the week, you survived something that you weren't supposed to survive, so you can do anything you want in this world. So each and every one of them has gone on to become successful. Not one of them has an alcohol problem, not drugs problem, no nothing. They're very resilient, and I am so proud of them, because the strange thing about us is we're all still together. We're all still together, and it wasn't from lack of trying. I've tried to hang myself. Like Stephen's tried to kill himself. The kids have tried to kill themselves, and I've had to beg. I begged my oldest son. He ran away from me in the woods once and got to the train tracks, and he was on the train waiting for the train to come. And I got over and I said, right, well, I'll come with you. And he said, no. And I said, well, I will, because I won't be able to let you go on your own, but you do know that the other two will be fucked. So he was like, you're emotionally blackmailing me. When I get to 18, I can kill myself if I want to. And this is how crazy our life has been. This is the discussions that we've had with our own children. And that's what sickens me. That's what sickens me to the core.
Government is more than happy to help with assisted suicide over there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had to beg them to hold on. You know,
it's such an unnatural thing to live through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wish I could come up with another word.
The animalistic response.
Oh yeah, sure.
Come up with another word. I can't think of another word.
No, there's no words for it. That's why it's even insane.
There's gotta be a word for it. I mean, you gotta.
Yeah, but well, as because I'm Irish, I have to put some English words in it, because the way I usually talk is I throw an odd English word into the sentence. I just speak cursing, basically. so I'm a nightmare to talk to. But I'm a good crack. Like, we'd have good crack in the pub, but there's no crack here at all. So yeah. And they have driven me demented. I've had 5 nervous breakdowns, you know.
Sure.
5 of them.
That's what they aim to do.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean,
don't doubt
it's
it.
Good. You've done it. You've made it.
Oh yeah, we made it. We made it to the top, and it was the equivalent. The only way I can describe it is trying to climb Everest naked with no oxygen and 3 kids hanging off you.
Jericho.
That's what I did. So they can go fuck themselves.
It was like Jericho.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
What an amazing story. I'm so sorry to have to end it, but
no, that's fine.
We've been going for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, I have to, because my family will be starving. They'll be waiting for food.
Oh, bless. That's it. Once we get talking.
Nice to talk to you too.
But I'd love to.
Thank you to talk.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, ATL. But I'd love you to come back on another time, Amanda, because you've got so much to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said,
I'd love to.
So many people I'd love you to meet.
Oh,
But
yeah,
thank you
I'd love
both
to.
for coming on.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Jeanette.
Yeah,
All right, bye-bye.
you're amazing.
Amanda, you're an incredible woman and mother to have survived as you have, and then for your children to go on to be successful. What an amazing woman you are. So thank
Sure, I'm
you
not
so
dead
much
yet.
for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
it. You're
Thanks
too
so much.
stubborn to die.
Oh,
There's
Christ,
no
yeah,
getting rid
sure.
of you.
Well, it's not that. It's just that I couldn't. The fact of it'd make somebody happy if I died. So I thought, no, fuck that cunt. I'm going to stay alive just to annoy you. So that's my usual way of
A
doing
force
things.
to be reckoned with. But I've loved
I've
having
no
you
money
on.
though. I've no money.
I'm having. That's all right. You're rich in character, that's for sure. So I'm going to end it. I'm having technical problems my end as well.
That's grand.
But I would love to have you back on. You've had some some great support from the chat. If you get a chance to go back through and have a look, because people were shocked.
Oh, definitely.
And
Definitely.
we'll call it a day for today, but hopefully
Grand.
we'll be back up soon. All right, love. Thank you so much.
Gareth,
And I'll
wherever
speak
you
to
like,
you soon.
Oh, thanks a million. Thanks a million.
All right,
Thank you to everyone. Thank you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you everyone for coming in. We're going to call it a day. But what an incredible woman, and her story is just amazing. It needs to be out there. Absolutely incredible. Take care, everyone.